enjoy learning new things? Most people do. Well, I want to share with you the reasons why I think education is in need of changing from the way of the past to an interactive and stimulating adventure that stays with you your whole life. Why should you stop learning when the world never stops evolving and changing? Why should you have to choose at 16 a pathway for the rest of your life? Well, all that could be about to change in what could be the most exciting revolution ever to come to education since the first flint tools were shared. The way we have always taught was entirely built on the foundations of what the Industrial Revolution had taught us were needed. Admittedly, there have been some well-meant attempts at tweaking the formula over the decades of the last century, but essentially we still have the same system of learning vast quantities of data on a subject with exams at the end to make sure that you can remember it all. Now, the limitations are obvious. Number one, personal attention. Only those rich enough to afford private tutors ever had this luxury. Private schools would do a bit better with keeping student-to-teacher numbers as low as economically possible, but public schools, well, they vary considerably, and they are rarely as good as private schools even, and often considerably worse, with hundreds of students to a teacher in some examples. There is no way you are getting a personal education, never mind a personalised one, crafted to your strengths and weaknesses and moving at just the right speed to stimulate but not dishearten. Number two, specialization. The smaller the school, the more likely the curriculum will be limited to the core subjects that have to be taught. Larger schools can afford to incorporate more niche material that interests more limited numbers of students. But not everyone lives near to a large school, or even wants to go to one. Number three, teacher quality. It is a sad fact that not every school can have the few teachers who really excel at making their subject inspiring and interesting in a way that captures the student's imagination and makes them want to know more. We all know one or two examples of this, the ones you still remember from your school days. Yes, they can have all the required knowledge, but if it lacks the flair that sparks the imagination, then it has failed in its purpose, and they will not be stimulated to embrace it further. Number four, the syllabus is outdated and inflexible. In the past, job descriptions changed so slowly and new industry was discovered so infrequently that teaching for the jobs of the past made sense. But since the birth of the computer age in the mid-last century, things have started to change. Slowly at first, and with computers just replicating previous technologies, such as with the typewriter to word processor progression. The job description stayed the same, the tools became more efficient. But now, change is so fast that looking to the past just means you are out of date. We need to be thinking of the future and predicting what will be, instead of just reacting to what once was. Number five, the scheduling is outdated and inflexible. All students turn up early in the morning and then work constantly with a few breaks until a set time at which they are all sent home. This again has its roots in mimicking office and factory hours, making it convenient for parents and instilling the routine they would need in their future careers. But we now know that early starts are not in sync with the circadian rhythm for children, especially teenagers and young adults, and that different people have different circadian clocks on top of that. We also know how operating outside your natural circadian rhythm not only impairs your ability to learn, but it can also impact mental and physical health. Number six, The provision is rigid and unable to respond to new scenarios quickly. As we came to see in 2020, the old way of doing things, even with plans in place for extenuating circumstances, failed to respond when required to do so. This left students being underserved and understimulated by ad hoc systems and strategies that, with all the best will in the world and the valiant offerings by many teachers worldwide, fell short of what we should be able of providing in this day and age. Then there are the added issues of it mostly happening to the young and the incredible expense which can be off-putting for a multitude of reasons. Well, the time is now. It should have been yesterday, but today will do. No one will, obviously, but that does not stop the future from happening. We need to create a new model, crafted around the best of the analog human interaction and the best of the modern digital world, a hybrid for the future. Every person would have their very own AI teacher, much like you have any other app or software that you use. And it would be your very own private one-on-one tutor. It would constantly monitor your progress, crafting a personalized program and schedule unique to every student. A human teacher can still play a complementary role, either online, via text, video, or virtual reality, and in the real world at the actual school premises. But this can be reserved for application and interaction with regard to the subjects, leaving all the paperwork and other unwanted tasks to the AI in the background. It must be obvious that the scope of the subjects available could be vastly increased. Once a subject has been covered, then anyone in that network would have access to the material, and virtual reality interaction can make up for the lack of real-world teachers in more remote locations that have more limited resources. And not just can more subjects be included, but multiple variants of every subject can be built up over time. Different teachers with different teaching styles, and then each plan and schedule designed to suit the student's own way of learning, whether it is visual, oral, verbal, physical, logical, social, or solitary. Your AI would know which hybrid suits you best. The result is everyone has a perfectly optimized, unique teaching and learning schedule for anything they want to learn. I believe all teachers, even those disillusioned with the profession, entered with the best intentions. However, excessive workload, especially evenings lost to marking and writing reports, along with the lack of funding and resources and dealing with disillusioned students, can take their toll on the very best of characters. This could all change with the workload of paperwork shifted to an AI, leaving the creativity of the human teacher to return to craft interesting and stimulating lesson plans. Resource shortages of the past will disappear as they all become digitized and available to all, with virtual reality environments giving every student access to the best equipped and most perfectly suited environment within which to experiment, discover and learn. From the written works of all the great libraries to a laboratory to rival any scientific establishment and whatever else you could imagine. That leaves just the disillusioned students. But once all these suggestions are in place, I do not think that would continue to be a problem. The knowledge and skills we needed in the past suited the way things were, but they no longer suit. Why learn lots of data to memory? The fact is we have instant access to all the world's knowledge base with a pretty effective search tool at our fingertips for finding what we need. Digital course material can be updated far more quickly than printed materials could, allowing the course to keep on top of the latest changes and geared towards what the world is going to need. not just what it used to need. Why have everyone forced to inhabit the same space all day, every day, when we know about circadian clocks and their impacts? A new balance would let people choose the time for large segments of a course, leaving the communal experiences for more interactive and stimulating times. Virtual reality could even allow those who cannot attend for any reason such as illness to still take part in real time. The biggest change we need to embrace, though, is the idea of lifelong learning, because with the world changing so fast, we all will need to keep learning as a lifelong pursuit. And hopefully, as it embraces the digital revolution more fully, the democratization process will bring the costs ever closer to zero, as they have with all other digital products so far. And this brings me to the greatest point I can make, and that is how much the world will benefit from universal, cheap, personalized, lifelong education. How many geniuses have never reached their full potential because of where and to whom they were born? How many artistic prodigies have failed to delight audiences because their talent and interests went unnoticed by uninterested parents and teachers? How many records have failed to be broken because the athletic aptitude of a young person was missed because they did not perform on the right day for the right person? As computers and robots increase in importance and their roles in the coming years, and much faster than many actually realise, whole swathes of jobs will be removed, and notably those that require one or more actions to be performed several times. From reading and summarising paperwork to driving a taxi, the time is very nearly here. It is highly likely that this will lead to some form of financial support, of which basic income is a common version talked about, and this, as studies have shown, can lead to people working and undertaking projects in new areas, ones that might not have been financially viable before, or just something that has always been of interest but they never had the confidence to give it a go. Those jobs that require human interaction, such as the creative industries and performing arts, social and healthcare, and also highly unpredictable jobs such as electricians, plumbers, computer network and communications engineers. These will probably be the last ones to go. Is this the future of education? We certainly have all the tools and skills. We just need to get the governments to start building an education system fit for the future and not stuck in the past. How would you change the future of education? What subjects would you want to be included that you never had access to when you were a student? Let me know in the comments below, and I'll be sure to let you know what I think. Now hit that like button to show your support and help this fledgling channel, and subscribe if you've not done so already. How about looking at some of the great breakthroughs that space exploration gave us with this next video here? And if you've already seen that one, why not try this one instead? And as always, thank you for dropping by.